Market update here on the 22nd. So we came all the way down, but we did not get to the 50 DMA, which is kind of interesting. And then also we did not hit the 1.61 fib here we got close to it, but it's at 396.71. We came down here to 397 exactly. So that's interesting to point out. On the daily time frame, it looks like an ABC pattern, and this being the C wave. And so I would lean towards that, but this could just be still 1, 2, and a third wave here. Pull back and go lower. And that's very possible too. Another thing I've been looking at too is starting to incorporate it a little bit, just because I like to see where we're at in the Bollinger Bands. So on the daily time frame, we are at the very edge of the bottom of the Bollinger Bands. So, looking back here, doesn't necessarily mean we're going to bounce. Like right here, we just kept on going down and stayed on the outside of it. But generally, we're probably looking at a bounce of some kind. And so based on that, and then we look at the weekly time frame, which is even more interesting because we're not even to the 20 on the weekly. The 20 is down here at 391, and the very edge and the downside is at 365. So we're still on the top half of the Bollinger Band on the weekly. So that's very interesting to point out. I think that the most likely scenario based on that, for how long we've been at the very top edge of the Bollinger Band, even on the weekly time frame, I think. No, actually, we were at the middle. We finally got to the top. So it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to come down here to 391, but it is interesting to think that we could go all the way down to 365 and not be, it wouldn't be that crazy, really. It would just be the very outside on the weekly. And so based on all that, if I was just looking at this, I would think the most likely scenario is maybe a bounce and then probably more downside, just based on the Bollinger Bands. But again, that just shows you the whole picture. On the using Elliott wave, I would say we still have not figured out if this is, let me get rid of this now, if this is ABC or if this is a 5-wave move. We still have not hit the 1.61 fib. We could do that tomorrow, but we did close at 398.54, well off the lows. So that signals that maybe we bottomed. And if we bottom, we start going up here. If this is indeed the 4th wave, which it looks like it should be, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We bounce and we go to new lows. But then we only bounced so far to the 0.38 fib, basically. So it could easily just be wave 1 of 5. And then you also look at the length of the wave 1. It was about $7. So if we bounce here to 401, $7 is not till 394. Usually 2 waves the same length. So we're probably not going to get a 3rd wave length, which would have been basically like 16 points. We could, but normally 2 are the same length, and I would say that it's probably more likely that we would get a 5th wave the same length as the 1st wave, which would take us down to 394. And then if we look in the daily on that, that is right at the 200-day moving average at 393. So we still don't know yet. I want to see, if it's a 5-wave move, I want to see a break of 396.50 in the 50-day moving average right here. And I want to see probably a bounce first and then another move down to solidify that it's a 5-wave move. So on the daily time frame, I want to see some green, and then I want to see another move down to 393. That would solidify a 5-wave move. And then we could bounce back up to, let's say we come down here to 393, we could bounce all the way back up to 405 to 408 before more downside. So I think that the downside is pretty limited from here. Maybe the low 390s, and then we're going to bounce back to maybe 405, 408, something like that. So again, Bollinger Band extended on the downside of the daily, weekly, not extended at all. Most likely scenario is probably bounce lower, or we finish ABC and go higher. So we'll see which one plays out, but again, I don't think that we have enough information based on today. Still need to see what happens tomorrow, and we should get a pretty clear picture over the next couple of days. Tesla. Tesla is the nice bounce from the lows. It went all the way down to 192 at one point, and it bounced pretty well off the lows. If we zoom in here, again, just gonna wait and see. I think that this leans towards more downside because we still haven't hit the 1.61 fib, but this also could be, I think there's probably more downside. This can't be ABC in my opinion. I think this is probably going to end up being some kind of WXY move, or who knows. But again, the 1.61 fib is at 187, so I won't be surprised if we touch that as SPY makes its low here in the next couple of days. But again, I still think this is a WXY overall move, or at most an expanded flat, and I still expect more upside just based on this pattern. So I would say that the most likely scenario is a little bit more downside and then probably more upside. So we'll see on that. Let's go over Apple. Apple came down pretty low. I'll look at the Bollinger Bands actually here in a second too. Maybe that'll give us some more insight. Apple came all the way down to 147 and then bounced. Again, the 1.61 fib is sitting here at 144. So if SPY goes down to low 390s, I could see Apple hitting 144. Looking very corrective as well. Not looking like a 5-wave move. And so that is, again, another good sign if you're bullish on SPY, which I covered part of my short position here. I still probably kept like 55 to 60% of my SPXS, but I'm just waiting to see what happens, really. It's kind of hard for me to believe that we came all the way down here and we're not going to hit the 50. And so maybe we are bouncing and we're going to see maybe this ends up being a B wave, to be honest. And this is an expanded flat. That's very likely, I think. Yeah, I would say if that's an expanded flat, we could see 402 to 403 tomorrow and then get more downside. So I think that's probably pretty likely. And this was everyone that went short here might get burnt tomorrow, to be honest. And then we see more downside after that. So this market's pretty tricky to trade. That's why I'm staying away from options. Just playing the inverse ETFs and that kind of stuff. So Apple could see 144 here eventually. We'll see on that. And then let's look at the Bollinger Bands actually. It's kind of helpful, I feel like. I feel like it puts it into perspective pretty well. So Bollinger Bands on Apple. So again, on the daily, we are barely below the 20. We'll bring in the other moving average. We hit the 200-day today. So that is good to finish above that. That's pretty bullish. The 20 is above the 200 as well. We have the 50 down here. I think the 50 is probably not a very good chance of hitting that. But I think that it is probably pretty important that it bounces here and it stays above the 200-day moving average. On the weekly, it is still got a little ways to go if it wants to get down to the 20 on the weekly time frame. Still has plenty of downside if it wants to come down here on the Bollinger Band, down here to 142, 143. So still on the top part of the Bollinger Band on both SPY and Apple. So that's pretty bearish in my opinion, most likely. But we'll see on that. Let's look at Tesla Bollinger Band, and then I'll go over Microsoft. So Bollinger Band on Tesla. On the daily, a little bit above the 20-day, could come down here to 150-ish and still be the very bottom range. On the weekly, barely above the midpoint on the weekly. So again, if Tesla's making a corrective move here, and we have the 50 up here, and it's been at the very bottom of the Bollinger Band for such a long time, don't be surprised if we get all the way up to the top of the Bollinger Band before we see an actual real correction. And the fact that we're doing a corrective wave around here makes it more likely that we are going to see that move higher to the 50 DMA, or maybe the 200 on the daily, which is around 224. So I think looking at all these, well, let's just wait and see what happens tomorrow with the 50 DMA here at 396.50, and see if we get a bounce to 402 first and then more downside. If we just bounce from here and just keep on going up, then I would say this is an ABC correction, and we have a chance to either make a ABC move right here and then go lower, or again, we could just make a 5-wave move from here and go higher. So we'll see. Let's go over Microsoft. Microsoft, on the weekly, it's ready for a correction big time based on the Bollinger Bands. But it on the daily is still like around midpoint. It could come lower. But then if I look at the chart, 250 was the 1.61 fib of this correction. So I won't be surprised if this is going to go lower. It's probably going to have to do A, B, C, and then it's going to have to bounce, and then it's going to have to do something like that. It looks very corrective to me, so this would be the most likely scenario in my opinion. But again, it is pretty overbought in my opinion, just based on Bollinger Bands. So Bitcoin, and I'll go over the dollar next. Bitcoin is looking like I did a video like a week ago on this. 5-wave move, pretty simple to see. We are currently above the 20, the 50, and the 200-day, so very bullish still. But I think that after a 5-wave move, we're probably going to at least correct to the 50-day or the 50% retracement here at 23.54, potentially all the way down here to 19.2, or 0.78 at 17.5. I'll probably be buying there. If you watch my video, I think that there's a very good chance that 15,000 is actually the bottom. And I think there's a lot of good risk reward on Bitcoin. And I think that it's worth taking a chance on, regardless if it ends up being worth nothing. I still think it's a good risk reward for the potential to turn, you could turn in one Bitcoin into 100,000 plus over the next couple of years. So I think it's good risk reward. I'm not even putting that much money into it. I only have 0.3 of a Bitcoin right now that I bought at 15,000, and I'll probably buy another 0.3, 0.4 if it comes down here to 17 to 20,000. So that's kind of my thoughts on Bitcoin. I'm looking to buy it on here. On the Bollinger Bands, on Bitcoin, which I'm probably going to start using these a lot more. I like them a lot. Gives me some insight into where we're at. Probably need to come down here to at least 23. The daily, the outside is down here at 21, but on the weekly, it's really actually at the very top too. The middle is down here, right at kind of the area that I was talking about to start buying. So I would be looking at this to be a guide to when to buy it as well. Let's go over the dollar. And then maybe QQQ, and then I'll call it. That's it. The dollar is the weekly, still not to the 20-day here at 106. We have the 50 here at 105.41. And honestly, the 20 is kind of the area that I was targeting, around 105.80 for this ABC correction. So after that, we'll have to just see what happens. This could just end up being A, pullback B, and we get another move up here to this supply zone. Or it could just be a short move here to the 20, and then we get more downside. On the daily, we are at the very top of this range though. So we could get to the very top of the Bollinger Band and then pull back to the middle and then get moved higher. Because the weekly, we still have some room to go much higher here to the top of this supply zone right here. So I think this is probably most likely just the A wave, and then we're probably going to get a pullback, maybe enough of a pullback for SPY to go to 420, 430, and then a move higher, most likely, which would probably give SPY the chance to come down here and make a bear market low. I don't see it as impulsive yet. If it was impulsive, I would say that it would have more of a chance to break the highs, but it's not looking like that right now. Last one, QQQ. And I haven't looked at QQQ all day, so let me get rid of all these first and just take a look on the daily. So again, if we're looking at this, I haven't changed this since it was invalidated, but if we're looking at this as ABC, then it's still way off. It could come all the way down here to 286, or maybe it's bottom here, the 1.23 fib. 286 though would actually be right in the ballpark of this demand zone right here, this candle right here, before we get the big move higher. So I wouldn't be surprised if it does go to 286. This would mean that SPY is going much lower though. If we get 286 on QQQ, SPY is probably going to the low 390s. On the Bollinger Bands, we are pretty much in the middle on the daily, and on the weekly still way higher. 281 is the middle, so 286 would not surprise me at all. And looking at this, you know, I mean, would not surprise me one bit if SPY ends up being in a 5-wave move, despite after hours really blasting off. QQQ is up a little bit though after hours. So again, really in summary, I'm watching SPY to see if it can get down here to 396.50 and how it reacts to the 1.61 fib and around the 50-day moving average. If we are bouncing, like I talked about earlier, for a C wave on the 4th wave, look for 402, 403, somewhere in this area for the 4th wave, and then we can start the 5th wave down to the low 390s. So kind of a longer video, but I wanted to incorporate the Bollinger Bands into this one because I think it's pretty helpful to see the overall picture and, you know, put it in perspective where we're at in the chart. So leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Are we going to go lower to October lows here soon. Are we getting a 5-wave move, or is this an ABC move and we're going to go higher? 3 different paths. We're either going to go 5-wave move higher from here, so basically just straight up. The second way is ABC and then lower, or is this going to end up being a 5-wave move like this? 3 different paths. Really, tomorrow should tell us a lot. I'll leave it at that. Please like and subscribe for more updates, usually during the day and definitely after the market. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.